A estos efectos, el CFA se ha enfocado mucho en el tema de educación. Hay varias certificaciones que se ofrecen hoy en día. El CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, es la más conocida y extendida. Acá en Perú, el nivel 1 del CFA es obligatorio para poder trabajar en un banco, en una AFP, en un fondo mutuo, una casa de bolsa, en todas las instituciones que de alguna u otra manera están vinculadas a las inversiones. Aprobando el nivel 1 del CFA, prácticamente ustedes tienen, digamos, la ruta directa de acceso. Pero eso no es suficiente. La idea es que todos aprueben el nivel 3 del CFA para poder pertenecer con todos los honores a esta comunidad global. Luego tenemos también el Certificate of Investments Performance Measurements, el Claritas. Tenemos códigos de ética. El que más se conoce es el primer código de ética, que es el tema de los profesionales y la conducta. Hay un segundo código de ética que es para las compañías que hacen asset management. Luego tenemos también un código de conducta para fondos de pensiones. Y tenemos unos estándares internacionales en medición de performance y rentabilidad. Estos cuatro códigos en el Perú, el primero es el que se utiliza en todas las industrias. Sin embargo, estamos trabajando con los reguladores para que el Asset Manager Code of Professional Conduct, el Pension Trustee Code y el GIPS sean obligatorios también para la industria de inversiones en Perú. Solo pongámonos en el escenario de que si logramos que Perú adopte estos 4 estándares, vamos a ser en Latinoamérica el país con el mayor estándar en términos de valla, de sofisticación, de conducta ética y en términos de cumplimiento de las mejores prácticas. Es decir, no estamos tan lejos como pareciera para ser líderes regionales. Mucha gente no conoce obviamente estos detalles y puede pensar que la distancia es todavía inalcanzable. Mentira, en realidad estamos muy cerca de poder conseguirlo. Hemos venido ya trabajando con los reguladores en los últimos 6 años. La sociedad tiene solo 2 años y medio, pero el grupo que de alguna manera conformó la sociedad viene trabajando con los reguladores hace más de 6 años de manera activa. Entonces creemos nosotros que en 2017 vamos a poder ya contar con estos otros estándares también de manera mucho más específica y especializada en la industria. En Latinoamérica tenemos hoy en día 5 sociedades, la más grande es la de Brasil. La de Brasil tiene casi 1000 charter holders, digamos, que son socios y miembros. En el Perú nosotros tenemos 228 miembros, de los cuales 130 aproximadamente son CFA charter holders. El resto son profesionales afiliados, muy destacados en la industria. México es la segunda sociedad, está más o menos con 250 miembros. ¿Qué significa esto? En Perú hay poco más de 1000 candidatos en el nivel 1, nivel 2 y nivel 3. Esto significa que en este año o el siguiente somos más grandes que México y somos la segunda sociedad en Latinoamérica después de Brasil. Comparemos los tamaños de población y Perú en términos de penetración por habitante y por PBI va a ser más importante que Brasil. Entonces, como sociedad, como comunidad de inversiones, esto nos pone a la expectativa de lo que es el CFA a nivel global. Nosotros en el tema de ética estamos tan comprometidos que con tanto hecho de corrupción que está de alguna manera contaminando la prensa y las noticias, nosotros también vamos a organizar una maratón por la ética, sí a la ética, no a la corrupción. Obviamente todos van a estar invitados, es en el mes de mayo, ya lo vamos a anunciar en las siguientes semanas, pero tenemos sponsors de primer nivel, además del CFA internacional, ya hay un banco bandera, digamos, de Perú que ya está comprometido, también una universidad. Entonces vamos a empezar a tener más miembros que se comprometan, ¿no? Acá ustedes pueden ver las tasas de crecimiento de los candidatos, son el orden del 25%, es una de las tasas más altas de crecimiento en el mundo, el CFA Perú, y obviamente lo que estamos buscando es promover la integridad del mercado financiero y de capitales. Acá tenemos una serie de principios, ustedes ya deben haberlo leído, no me voy a detener en el detalle. Este es nuestro nuevo directorio, hubo una renovación de directorio a finales del año pasado y ahora, como pueden ver, hay varios gerentes de inversiones, estos CIOs, que significa Chief Investment Officer, son gerentes de inversiones de los fondos de pensiones más grandes, más sofisticados, más diversificados a nivel global. Esto también nos permite, digamos, tener representantes de diferentes sectores que están manejando y liderando el mundo de las inversiones. Asimismo, También tenemos un consejo de asesores que es de lujo. Si ustedes hacen la suma entre el BCP, BBV, Scotiabank, Interbank y Sura y todo el grupo que ellos manejan, porque ellos son las cabezas de estas instituciones, tenemos aproximadamente el 85% del sector bancario y del sector del mercado de capitales comprometidos con el CFA Society. Esto es algo relativamente nuevo, lo tenemos de hace 2 años, y esto nos permite tener una participación y un compromiso institucional del mercado de capitales y del mercado bancario y financiero sin precedentes. Esto es bien importante porque además tenemos también a la Universidad del Pacífico, que es el único hasta el momento, digamos, sponsor oficial del CFA en el Perú. Nosotros esperamos que las universidades que ustedes representen también hagan el filing, porque esto puede ser de varias universidades, no tiene por qué ser una sola. Se llama Affiliate Universities, y la idea es que tengamos 8, 10, 15 universidades en el Perú que sean afiliadas también al CFA. Entonces vamos a tener con eso también más representantes de otras universidades participando en estos consejos y en estas acciones, ¿no? Nosotros tenemos, digamos, también miembros del gobierno, hacemos una serie de actividades. Acá están viendo los comités que el directorio maneja. Estamos lanzando también y apoyando un nuevo comité consultivo del mercado de capitales. Esto se está creando en las siguientes semanas oficialmente. El CFA a nivel mundial promueve activamente el mercado de capitales. Acá tenemos a personalidades de primer nivel. El objetivo es básicamente tener otra herramienta más para poder desarrollar los mercados de capitales. Tenemos un plan estratégico, tenemos una serie de actividades. Una de las más importantes es esta precisamente. Nosotros esperamos, estamos haciendo unos cambios en el GIR, esperamos el próximo año tener aproximadamente el doble por lo menos de universidades. Obviamente estamos comprometiendo más presupuesto, pero la experiencia de ustedes es muy valiosa. Lo que pueden hacer ustedes dentro de sus universidades u otros compañeros que tengan en otras universidades nos va a ser de mucha utilidad. Nosotros operamos en el enfoque de ecosistema. Ustedes pueden ver, tenemos miembros de prácticamente en todos los sectores de lo que es la comunidad de inversiones, los mercados de capitales y financieros. Y obviamente tenemos representantes de todas estas compañías, ¿no? Esto también nos convierte en una de las pocas instituciones que efectivamente, transversalmente, cruza casi todo el mercado de capitales. ¿Qué quiere decir esto? Ustedes tienen la oportunidad, no solamente demostrando sus capacidades y competencias en este concurso, tienen la oportunidad también de ser parte del CFA Institute. Y eso es lo que quiero que quede como experiencia de todo este trabajo, este esfuerzo que han realizado en las últimas semanas y meses, que no sea solamente por ganar la competencia, por estar presentes acá, sino que apuesten también por su carrera, por su futuro, siendo futuros miembros del CFA Society. Nosotros tenemos también la categoría de estudiante para el CFA, y esto también los puede permitir a ustedes ser desde hoy día, digamos, miembros del CFA Society Perú, ¿no? Acá hay muchísima información de las actividades que hemos realizado. Yo me voy a detener acá por temas de tiempo. Vamos a dejarle el pase a Daniel para que él pueda ya seguir con la competencia. Obviamente al final todos tenemos la camiseta blanquirroja, ¿no? Entonces acá no solamente estamos trabajando por nuestra carrera, por nuestra profesión, estamos trabajando también por nuestro mercado. El mercado financiero y de capitales, si funciona bien, como ustedes saben, si funciona mejor, es más moderno, es crucial, crítico para el desarrollo del resto de la economía. Si queremos más empleo, si queremos menos pobreza, si queremos más desarrollo, más bienestar, necesitamos desarrollar el mercado de capitales, necesitamos desarrollar el sector bancario y llevarlo a otro nivel. Esa es un poco la misión del CFA, ¿no? Con esto yo termino y le doy el pase a Daniel Dancourt, que ha sido el miembro del directorio que es responsable de esta competencia. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, simplemente complementando lo que ya mencionó Melvin, creo que ha sido bastante claro en el rol que juega el mercado de capitales, ¿no? En el desarrollo del país, el tema de ética, que es uno de los pilares justamente del mercado de capitales. Y nada, creo que el concurso hemos conversado bastante de la competencia. Quería felicitarlos a todos primero. Parte de la evaluación ya está en los trabajos escritos, es el 50% de la evaluación que ya conocen. Quería comentar, no con ánimo de meter presión, pero dentro de los años que hemos estado en la competencia es lo más pegado que han estado los resultados. Es un año bastante competitivo, el nivel ha sido muy bueno, van a recibir un feedback detallado de los jurados, de los graders, que son los que evalúan el trabajo escrito, para que puedan ver cuáles eran las áreas de potencial refuerzo que podían haber y qué se hizo bien, qué se puede mejorar en el reporte, ¿no? Pero simplemente para comentarles que ha sido muy competitivo y es un poco parte de lo que se busca en términos de lo que mencionaba Melvin, de que eventualmente la idea es que representando a Perú, el equipo que llegue a las finales regionales pueda ganarla, ¿no? y competir a nivel global en la final, ¿no? Comentando un poquito de la dinámica, lo que vamos a hacer es un sorteo de los equipos, el orden en que van a ir presentando. Van a tener 10 minutos para presentar, esto es tiempo estricto, ¿no? Si están en el medio de la presentación y llega a los 10 minutos se corta, ¿no? O sea, sean bastante ordenados con los tiempos. De ahí se pasará a una ronda de preguntas del jurado, que también serán 10 minutos, que también se cortará de la misma manera, y luego 10 minutos de deliberación. ¿Ya? Posteriormente se hará la deliberación, se combinarán los resultados que han tenido los equipos a nivel de presentación, se combinará con los resultados del trabajo escrito, y sobre eso se anunciará al ganador que estará representando a Perú en Seattle. El equipo ganador tocará la campana de la bolsa el día de hoy y será reconocido posteriormente el 4 de abril en uno de los eventos del CFE al que estarán invitados con bastante de los partícipes de mercado, como mencionó Melvin hace un momento, dentro de los principales grupos financieros del país, ¿no? Sin más que eso, bueno, les deseo la mejor de las suertes. Como digo, se define en la presentación, ¿no? Está todo muy, muy competitivo. Nuevamente felicitarlos y vamos a pasar en un minuto que vamos a pasar al sorteo, ¿no? Voy a pedir ahorita los bolos para hacer el sorteo de inmediato. Muchas gracias. Mariela Córdoba, quien trabaja en la Bolsa de Valores de Lima, quien también quisiéramos agradecer, y un fuerte aplauso por el constante apoyo que nos ha dado la Bolsa en la competencia. Y a ver, Mariela, te dejo selecciones el orden. Pontificia Universidad Católica del Perú. Entonces como vamos a proceder es los mentores y faculty advisors pueden permanecer en el auditorio. Los alumnos de los equipos que todavía no han presentado tienen que esperar en la sala del costado mientras presentan los equipos iniciales. Una vez que un equipo ha presentado, puede quedarse espectador, ¿no? Y las únicas preguntas pueden venir del jurado. ¿Ya? Mucha suerte y cuando queden 5 minutos, va a haber un primer aviso de que quedan 5 minutos para que puedan irse ordenando, y cuando quede un minuto también se les avisará que el tiempo se está terminando. Muy mal. ¿Ya? Sí, que sí. Para el tiempo, acá hay van señalando los 5 minutos. Ah, perdón. Sí.
Sí, correcto.
¿Qué lo va a hacer?
Ah, ya, ¿sí lo vas a hacer? Sí, adelante.
Well, good morning to the judges, good morning to CFA Society authorities, good morning to all the audience. We are Pontifical Catholic University of Peru, and in this opportunity we are presenting our research and covers in retail stock. In retail stock has several arguments that can lead to overweight stock, leadership in its three segments, other retail penetration opportunity, and its strategy to attack this, value and remembered brands, synergies and belonging to a major holding such as Intercorp, and a liquidity improvement. Internalize these positive drivers in the price, as we can see in historical performance return. Consequently, we issue a whole recommendation based on our intrinsic value of $19.76 with a potential upside of 2.75%.
Now, here we have some demand drivers. We can see in the middle class development that it has been growing over the years, and therefore it means that more families will have a bigger budget, and therefore more families will be able to afford a basic basket, and the sourcing in the industry will grow. And the GDP percentage variation, we see that in 2014 it had a drop, but it has been recurring, and the expectations for 2017 are 4.8%, but due to the paralysis of some the major projects of constructions, it has been lowered down to 3.8%. Now we have a 5-quarter analysis and a list of new entrants. There is an entrance barrier here because some formats of the holding has a big capex. So a big capex means that it's more difficult for some enterprises to enter the market. And as a substitute, we find out that people usually prefers to go to kiosks or local stores near to their homes, and because sometimes it's cheaper and it has an easy access. And very power customers, or customer has a lot of power, since they will usually prefer a lower price without sacrificing the quality of the products. The bargaining power suppliers, well, they have a big power because they usually sell perishable products. That means that the product very soon, and the rivalry within the industry is pretty high, and the market share is pretty unstable because, as we can see, it's pretty even.
Now, let's describe the businesses. First, we have supermercados, which is a chain of supermarkets that targets the social economic levels B, C, and D through its multi-format brands, Vivanda, Plaza Vea, and Mesa. Currently, the company is developing e-commerce and delivery strategy. Then we have Eker Peru, better known as Inca Pharma, with nationwide presence in all the departments of the country and a diversified mix of products, 70% of drugs and the other percent of their own brands, healthcare and beauty. The company is following a low capex strategy, which allows the company have a high opening rate, and actually also a delivery strategy. Finally, we have Real Plaza, that this business model is mainly based on renting those gross visible area of their malls. This renting is component by two components, a fixed tariff and a variable component. The fixed tariff is adjusted by inflation year over year, and the variable component is proportional to the sales of tenants. So, consequently, Real Plaza not only rents area, the company should manage the area in order to encourage traffic of potential shoppers by missing the rents.
Here we have some financial analysis. Here in liquidity, we can see a gap between the current based on the inventory, and we have also a negative working capital because the holding usually usually financed through suppliers. In the profitability, we have a net working margin pretty low, but it's something normal for the industry. And it usually relies on the profitability of inventory turnover and reward. But in the credit profile, we see an increment by a goal spread, and it also has a support by the intercorporate growth. In the cash cycle, we can see that in supermarket and pharmacies, the cash cycle is pretty low because usually inventory takes about 1 and 3 days for the supermarkets and 3 to 4 days in the pharmacies to be purchased by customers. And the days account payable is pretty high because it usually has this power over the suppliers, and they will pay them about 3 or 4 months depending on supermarkets or pharmacies.
Taking into consideration the relevance of cash flow generation in retail companies, at a first glance, a discounted free cash flow to the firm model would be the main approach to value this company. However, we also employ a sum of the part model to calculate each company individually. To develop these strategies, we needed to forecast sales. To make this, we work in a hybrid approach, taking into consideration the most updated forecast economic indicators that has political context within, and also a bottom-up analysis through current management goals and plans, and a time series analysis that take into consideration growth and margins historicals. Well, for sales, to forecast sales, we have this forecasting was divided in 3 phases. First phase, where we have more solid indicators in plans, expansion, new entrants of stores, no? And more solid economic indicators by the math. No? In a second phase, from 2019 to 2026, we have a fixed growth rate that is highly influenced by the development of the sector and also by the development of e-commerce that really is, if under our perspectives, would be very important. And finally, a perpetuity using long-run inflation growth rate of 3%. To develop both strategies, we need comparables. In each sector, we take into consideration these characteristics: revenue participation, be having operations in Latin, be into a cautious market cap range, to then unlever and relever the betas. For beta, we use both asset beta and comparable beta. No? To then, comparable beta was weighted by EBITDA participation in each sector. For then, calculate cost of equity, we need to add that for Supermercados Peruanos, we apply a liquidity premium due to the fact of its inexisting trading activity in the 15 listed years. The cost of debt, we use active debt on the retail and book value debt for Supermercados Peruanos. Final, calculate the WACC. No? So relative valuation, we chose EBITDA, enterprise value to EBITDA measure because of the relation between EBITDA and cash flow, and also for the availability of quarterly reporting information for both prior companies, Eker and Real Plus. No? We could calculate these values. We can add that. We use fair value to then we add it to Supermercados discounted cash flow, relative valuation, less debt, and we also have a fair value for all the whole, no? To calculate an intrinsic value. As we have in this slide both models, both values. One is higher than the other due to the fact that discounted cash flow is has high sensitivity to one variation, and some of the parts is highly influenced by the relative multiples.
Here we have the risk matrix. We chose 3 principal components. The liminal potential for expansion. That means here, especially in the capital, lands are pretty occupied, and for enterprises a lot harder to grow in sales because potential penetration in the retail sector. It has a lot of potential, especially in the north. That's why some companies like Walmart try to enter to the business. The entrance or expansion of new competitors is pretty high because there is a lot of competition, a lot of rivalry, and this is represented by the expansion of not only retail but the competitors like Cencosud. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And then,
yes, I have some questions. Talking about focus of the investments the company should do, you said that the company should focus on the north, but in the last part you were saying that the company should focus the investment strategy in the north of Peru. Why is that?
Well, because we found out in the investigation that in the north part of Peru, not only there is a land available, but it's also people is more able to purchase new things like a basic basket, and they have a more a bigger chance of finding new things since there isn't a lot of competition there.
Okay, another question regarding that. That doesn't convince me very much because the south part of Peru is going to have a higher GDP growth rate. It's going to be higher than the north. Do you think the company is doing all the things they can do in the south of Peru so they can take advantage of that GDP growth in the south of the country?
that GDP growth will influence in organic growth. But when we talk about to invest in northern Peru, we talk about expansion, new openings for the availability of land. Of course, the company will take that advantage of GDP growth, but in terms of organic growth, in SSS growth. Okay.
I have a quick question. Regarding the financial risks, digital shows a significant debt maturity in 2021. Do you think that the company would have any issues refinancing that debt, or do you think that will be paid down with the cash flow? What do you think? How do you think they will handle that refinancing?
Well, yes, the debt has a free bonds maturity in 2021, right? And both in two currencies, and we think that the future cash flow generation of the company will support in some way, in some proportion, this debt maturity, right? But we can expect that the company will reissue debt, well, in order to pay these face amounts.
Do you think that will be done in the local or foreign market?
Last issues of debt has been made privately. No, they have senior and secured notes, no, in foreign markets, right? I suppose that they will use that relationship with Intelligo Bank foreign to support these issues.
My first question is, if you think that it has a limited upside potential, close to 2%, why are you recommending to hold stock instead of recommending to sell? Because you can earn more money with a bank deposit, for example, any kind of security, which this will yield less than inflation.
Yeah, that's a high, very low yield very low return to have a position in this stock, right? But we also it's a whole recommendation not just focus on the upside, right? We believe that a company is a whole recommendation based of the height of the currently prices, but the company, we don't know how the sector is going to be developed. It's how the sector will be attacked this potential to penetrate into the population. No? So there is a chance to have a more upside return. Yes, a bank deposit will be offered more returns, but we expect our perspective, we are positive into this spectacles.
When you calculate the betas, how do you do this exercise? Using just a calibration? Because I think it's a very low beta. That's maybe one driver why the evaluation is high. Maybe with a higher beta, we can do more.
Of course, I can explain. We use two types of beta, and it's a beta of a square regression, no? But we have to take into consideration that the stock has been listed for 5 years. In its 5 years, it didn't have a good liquidity level. So there were not enough data to have a solid relation. So due to this illiquidity, we tended to use a comparable data, no? For each sector.
How do you got that information from
Comparables using an industry classification system, IPS, S&P and MSCI. No, we filter that information by revenue participation. That was our main focus in order to find comparables. No, you can see 100%. Well, in this subsector it's not so solid, but in pharmacy 100%, and then we focus on it to be in Latin operations due to the similarity to the Peruvian consumers, no? And then we cannot compare with a high enterprise, high operations, so that we focus on also in a prudent market cap range. Then we median its unlevered betas. We find the median of each unlevered betas, and each subsector betas was weighted by EBITDA participation in the companies. 40%, 40% is the participation of each sector in the company. So we took these weights to average the median subsector betas. No? Yes, are low, and I think that is that to low or to no high liquidity level. We know how is Lima Stock Exchange. We have been through a downgrade availability last year, so I think it is highly influenced by that.
Regarding the work you made, making adjustments regarding the liquidity the company has in the market.
And in cost of equity, well, actually the retail as a holding, as a stock, has enough liquidity level. It has saving prices only every day, also daily. But Supermercados Peruanos, in 15 years listed, didn't have trading activity. The company has not sold price ever. So we added a premium to punish this context.
Why did you add a 1% of liquidity premium in the cost of equity? How do you find that number?
I will be very honest. About this. I read a research from S&P to Latin markets. They made a comparison between returns and liquidity, and I find that proportion to this kind of relation.
You mentioned the e-commerce channel, which is part of the growth path that the company is having. Do you have any guidance of the impact of that in your sales projections? Do you think that that's potentially something that could create new competitors different than the traditional way that you analyze in the industry?
Sure. Well, e-commerce actually in Peru represents about 1% compared to all Latin American countries. I think that Brazil, if I remember, was about 40–50%. And yeah, sure, it can impact the industry, it can impact the value, but since it's recently beginning, we can ensure a big growth. We have to see if the e-commerce can establish well, if we can develop in a fast way, and of course competitors will be growing too. Actually, there is a shopping mall in now, it's Juntos, and we'll see. And it's our first shopping mall on the internet. Of course, new competitors develop. You add a new variable, you add new competitors, new sectors. Of course, since it's just beginning, we can assure accurate projection.
Finish.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When we were born, Peru was coming out of one of its worst economic crises. Inflation was at 4,000% and GDP growth was at its lowest. Nowadays, Peru is the second highest rated country in Latin America and leads the region in GDP growth. Good morning, my name is Luis Cerro, and along with Sofia Ávila, Andrea Diaz, Aldo Rodriguez, and Diego Alvarez, we thank you for coming to our presentation on our investment recommendations training. In a growing market, in retail, an expanding multi-format retailer holds a competitive strategy and offers an opportunity to buy an investment with mitigated risk, great potential, and upside. About a decade ago, only 30% of the Peruvian population belonged to the middle class. By 2015, that figure rose to 46%, and is expected to increase to 55% by 2021. These consumers are looking for a shopping experience that offers convenient locations, low prices, and great customer service. The retail sector in Peru keeps on growing and is nowadays in a peaking stage compared to more mature retail markets in Latin America. Peru is the fastest growing retail market in the region, according to Euromoney. However, there is still much space for the retail sector in Peru to keep growing. As modern retail penetration, it remains low and is almost half in these three business segments compared to more mature markets such as Chile. And now, Sofia is going to give you further details about Ingrid.
InRetail is a multi-format retailer with three business segments. So let's start with supermarkets. Supermercados Peruanos has effectively segmented the market in three brands: Vivanda for the high-income consumers, Plaza Vea for the middle and the emerging middle class, and finally Mass, a decent convenience store developed to gain market share over the traditional channel. In addition, Supermercados Peruanos is the first mover in 17 out of the 23 cities where it operates. Now I will pass on to the pharmacy industry, where InRetail operates under one single brand, Inca Pharma. Inca Pharma is a leading pharmacy chain in Peru with more than 40% market share and a very well-positioned brand. Inca Pharma, around 60% of its stores are located outside Lima, and in many of these cities, Inca Pharma is the first contact many Peruvians have with modern retail. Finally, the shopping mall sector, where InRetail stands out with Real Plaza, the largest shopping mall operator in Peru with 20% market share. Real Plaza was the first mover in 6 cities, and in 3 of them, it remains as the only player. Whichever way you see it, InRetail is a Peruvian retail company that is leading in the market and is the only publicly traded company with exclusive focus in this sector. Other regional peers like Cencosud and Parque Arauco have presence in more than one Latin American country. Let it be Chile, Brazil, or Colombia, none of them are growing at the same pace as Peru. Now, Aldo will comment on the competitive strategy of the company.
The corporate strategy will focus on getting InRetail's brands closer to the consumer, taking advantage of a peaking retail industry to gain market share from mom-and-pop shops, which currently hold over 400,000 points of sales in Peru. In the supermarket segment, they are currently piloting a small format brand. With the low capex, they are able to offer an everyday low price, competing strongly with mom-and-pop shops. In the pharmacy segment, they will aim to boost their private labels penetration, gaining an edge over mom-and-pop shops. And in the shopping mall segment, they'll concentrate on emerging middle-class districts, where the household income is the most dynamic, but the modern retail channel has almost no presence yet. And retail has an advantage over other retailers to be successful at this strategy, due to the strong brand reputation they've built by consistently being ranked at the high end of the Great Place to Work ranking. Now going to the financial performance of the company. The strong expansion in GLA and sales area has boosted the scale of operations, driving revenues and EBITDA growth. However, a high level of investment has been dragging down on profitability measures. We expect future expansions and maturity of stores and shopping malls to bolster the return on invested capital to a 9% level by 2021. This will be partially possible due to the negative cash conversion cycle the company benefits from, which generates available cash that will continue to be reinvested. Moreover, after a recent debt restructuring, the company has significantly reduced financial expenses and has led the FX debt exposure to a level that is naturally hedged by the EBITDA generated by rental income, which is mainly collected in US dollars. This has already boosted the return on equity. Now Diego will describe our valuation method.
Now, I'll walk you through some of our assumptions for valuation. We performed a sum of parts valuation for retail subsidiaries to take into account the different structures and risk profiles. We performed an equally weighted DCF and relative valuation. We believe the company will remain at a rapid stage of growth for the next 10 years. Sales area and GLA expansion will be the main drivers behind in retail's revenue growth. For terminal value, we expect a 3% long-term growth rate. Now, for the WACC calculation, different levered betas were calculated using the average of comparable companies on levered betas and the long-term capital structure of the company. We added a country risk premium of 2.8% and a liquidity premium of 1% to account for the stock's low trade volume. We ended up with a 9.2 and an 8.3 WACC for retail consumer and retail shopping mall segments, respectively. For relative valuation, comparable companies were selected based on their businesses and their regional presence. We focus this valuation on the EV/EBITDA multiple because it's not affected by the capital structure of the company. As a result, we issue a buy recommendation with a 2017 year-end target price of $21.81, which offers a 12.8% upside from current price levels. We also perform a Monte Carlo simulation to factor in key macroeconomic assumptions. In more than 81% of our simulations, we obtained a buy recommendation. Now, I will talk to you about some of the risks this investment faces. We believe the changes in labor law, entrance of global retailers, lower growth of employment, and the disruption of the distribution chain are the main risks the company can face in the near future. However, we believe the company is aware of these risks and will be able to face them. Now, Andrea will give you the highlights of our investment presentation.
In retail has a great potential and upside. In retail is well positioned to benefit from the expansion of the middle class and the strengthening of consumer confidence, which together will boost the growth of the retail sector. In retail has reduced risks due to synergies across all three business segments. Shopping malls have secure tenants, while retail stores have more available spaces. Synergies also include an efficient distribution network and a higher bargaining power with suppliers. In retail has secured a land bank for new real estate developments. With 8 land lots on strategic locations, it is prepared to face the scarcity of suitable land. In retail, is well positioned to benefit from the future surge of online purchases, as it has already opened an online channel for supermarkets and pharmacies. In retail, has minimum exposure to FX volatility. The company's EBITDA currency structure creates a natural hedge. Thus, with 23% of unhedged financial liabilities, it is prepared to face the FX volatility and the pen depreciation. Although the company has some concerns, such as low stock liquidity and corporate governance, we believe that in retail is the only way to be exposed to the Peruvian growing middle class, a low retail penetration with mitigated risks. This sustains our buy recommendation with a target price of $21.81 and a 12.8% upside. Thank you all for your attention, and we're open for questions.
You mentioned that in terms of the debt structure, that in retail has been hedging their exposure to the income proportion they have in terms of revenue generation. My concern with the debt is about the maturity of the debt, that a significant portion is concentrated in a specific year, 2021. Would you have any recommendation to the company in regards to that? How do you think they will handle the refinancing of that? Could that pose a potential valuation risk for your thesis?
According to a company, they are pretty comfortable with the level of leverage they have. When we asked about the debt structure, they told us that as the projects mature, they will have more available cash for paying the debt, and also they will probably refinance in pen to not be exposed to the FX volatility.
Do you think most of that will come from cash flow generation, or do you think that will be more refinanced?
Adding to what Diego said and to answer that last question, a great proportion of that they will pay will actually come from cash flow generation. Once they finish the important projects like Curuchuco Mall, that is going to be one of the largest shopping malls in Peru, and they finish building the manufacturing plant and automated distribution center for supermarkets, they will have a lot of available cash that the company has said they will use first to deleverage.
How do you incorporate it in your DCF analysis, the margin compression of the industry?
We have incorporated margin compression because of the stronger power from consolidated player in the pharmacy segment. We believe that this won't be significant because the company is currently focusing on changing the product mix towards product with more margin, specifically private labels.
What are the main risks in your valuation? In what scenario do you have a downside potential?
We performed a Monte Carlo simulation to see things like that. To have a neutral or sell recommendation, we would need to see a really strong depression of the economy, because the segments we target, the retail targets, are growing a lot right now. And for example, we use a 3% long-term growth rate that is really conservative compared to other research reports like BTG Pactual and JP Morgan that use a 5%. So being conservative, we really need to see a strong depression of buy.
Adding to Aldo's answer, like he mentioned, the segments that in retail targets are going to expand greatly. The middle class, which nowadays represents around 46% of the Korean population, is expected to go to 55% by 2021. So they're going to be the largest group in society. And additionally, according to recent data on consumer confidence, we see that the percentage of families in high income, middle income, and emerging middle class households that believe that their economic situation is going to improve in the next 6 months, it's above 50%.
And how do you assess the corporate governance of the company?
We consider that corporate governance is one of the main concerns for retail, as they have a weak minority shareholder interest in their corporate governance. However, we consider that as the company consolidates and matures, they're going to enhance their corporate governance to increase their minority interest shareholders.
In addition to what Andrea just mentioned, we included that in our liquidity premium of 1% in the WACC calculation, so that demonstrates that concern.
To complement my colleagues, we also use the liquidity premium as an input in the Monte Carlo simulation, going up to 2%, which is high, and over 80% of the scenarios land in the buy region.
And my last question, in your DCF model, how many periods do you use?
Investment horizon. Projection horizon. Yes. We use 10 years,
Just two periods, from 1 to 10, and then a terminal value, or you use?
no, from 1 to 10, and then a terminal value. And from 1 to 10, the growth starts to decelerate and gets to a steady state by the time.
I have some questions regarding the valuation. The terminal value, the long-term rate for the perpetuity growth, what's the number? 3, 4, 2?
It's 3% mainly driven by inflation.
Okay, I guess you are not assuming there a real long-term rate, so it's nominal, just inflation.
It's nominal, but it's 2% inflation in line with the midpoint of the target range from the central bank, and a 1% growth in the industry that is the lowest retail industry growth in the whole of Latin America.
And my second question is regarding the WACC calculation. How did you find this 1% liquidity premium you add to the component of the WACC?
Well, for calculating the liquidity premium of 1%, first we obtain the midpoint between what the MSCI recommends and an emerging market like Peru should have, which is between 15% and 20%, being the midpoint 17.5. And we calculated using the ATBR method of the MSCI, and in 2016, the in retail stock was 8.8%. So if we compare the 8.8 and the 17.5%, which is the midpoint I just mentioned, we obtain a 1% increase.
Adding to what Sofia said, again, the liquidity premium is an input in our Monte Carlo simulation to account for differences in that. And as we mentioned, over 80% of the simulations go in the higher.
In the past few months, obviously, we have been hearing that the retail sector has been suffering a lot more than expected in certain areas. In the shopping mall section of retail, have you seen any evidence of that impacting the revenues in terms of the guidance you have received from the company? Do you see because a big part of the growth probably comes from there? Do you think there's any risk that the projections they have might not come to fruition and the real plaza malls they have performed as expected?
Well, first of all, we believe that since mainly the income that comes from shopping malls comes from rental income, even though there may be some months in which visits to malls decrease, tenants will not rescind their contract with retail. However, we are focusing on more of the trends that are going to happen in society in the coming years. We believe that the middle class, which is transitioning from the traditional channel to the modern channel, are the ones who are going to be one main input for individuals growth in the coming years.
To complement what Chris just said, retail is focused on opening shopping malls and supermarkets in provinces outside of Lima, where the middle class has a lot of potential of expansion.
And in terms of you mentioned the tenants, so obviously the big part comes from rent. Do you have an estimate of the average duration of those contracts, of those rent contracts they have from the companies?
We do not have guidance on the length of the contracts. However, as according to the company, when they open a shopping mall, they have 95% of occupancy or higher.
Also, the company referred to us that when foreign tenants come to a country, they prefer consolidated chain shopping malls such as Real Plaza because they can get to different locations using one single company.
When you calculated the WACC, in the cost of debt component, do you use the market yield or the cube?
For the cost of debt in the WACC, we use the yield to maturity of the US denominated bonds. However, as they mature in 5 years, we adjusted that with the difference between the 10-year treasury yield and the 5-year treasury yield to estimate a 10-year yield to maturity from retail.
And what about the spread? Just you add the difference, or do you also use higher spread for higher maturity yield?
We added the difference to the cost of that.
I have one question regarding the timing. The company says. Oh.
Good morning, everyone. We are Universidad Nacional Mayor de San Marcos, and today we are going to explain our research and evaluation of Fin Retail Peru Corp. We issue a whole recommendation with a target price of $18.74 at the end of 2017. We use 3 different methodologies and obtain 3 different prices: the discounted cash flow model, the sum of the part multiple, and the price to earning multiple. All of these prices give us a whole recommendation, but we only take into account the discounted cash flow model because it is hard to find a peer company. And in order to have more accuracy to our recommendation, we also use a Monte Carlo simulation in which our target price falls in the whole area.
In order to sustain our recommendation, it's necessary to take into account the Peruvian economic perspective. As we can see in the graph, the expected annual growth rate for this year is 4.3%, which means at 3.6 times compared to the GDP for Latin countries. But we also can see that the GDP expected for the year 2018 will decrease, which means that this is going to have a negative impact on private consumption, which is the main driver for retail industry. In this scenario, in retail has 3 business segments. In supermarkets, operates with Supermercados Peruanos, in pharmacies with Inca Pharma, in shopping malls with Royal Plaza. And the biggest contributor in revenues is Supermercados Peruanos with 58.3%. In terms of EBITDA, the biggest contributor is Royal Plaza with 36.1%. About retail industry, Peru is on the peaking phase, where retail sector is gaining force, and there are sizable opportunities to continue growing. Specifically, in shopping malls, we can see that the main indicator is malls per million people, where Peru has an opportunity to grow in 2.2 times compared with Chile. In terms of supermarkets, the main indicator is penetration as a percentage of total sales, where Peru has an opportunity to grow in 2.3 times compared to Chile. Finally, for pharmacies, the main indicator is sales of retail pharma per capita in dollars, where we can see that there are sizable opportunity to boost per capita spending.
To continue the presentation, we all love soccer, so we use this graph to explain the activities of in retail. We catalogate Plaza B as a defender because this company has a stable revenue and also has been diversified its activities in different socioeconomic categories. We catalogate Real Plaza as a central middle fire because this company has the land bank in retail and distributes lands for all the companies that belong to the group. This company also has synergies with supermarket, having this company as a natural anchor store. The Striker, the company that gives the innovative character to in retail is Inca Pharma, who is the company that the most memorable brand of pharmacies in Peru. This store, this company achieved 1,000 of stores actually. The company has a leading position in each of the market in which it develops its activities. The company has 36.1% of supermarket sector. The company has 48.8% of pharmacy sector, and the company has 21.6% of shopping mall center. The company used a clustering strategy to expand its activities. There are 3 reasons for the company applicate this strategy to the operations of the company. The first reason is lower cost in peripheral areas. Also, we can see that the attractiveness of emerging classes in these areas. And the last one is the preexistence and the presence of competitors in peripheral areas.
About financial analysis, retail has been increasing its net income since 2013. In 2014, financial costs increased by 144 million as a result of the repurchase of bond and a new issue at a lower coupon rate. In the same year, the company registered an extraordinary income of revaluation of land to offset the financial cost and obtaining a higher net income at the end of the year. In 2015, exchange rate begins to depreciate and the company wasn't covered. As a result, the company obtained a large loss in exchange difference by more than 100 million. Given this situation, the company opted to acquire a call spread in order to hedge its dollar debt. In EBITDA terms, we can see the opposite because EBITDA decreased in 2015. So, in summary, we can see that the higher net income, higher EPS, doesn't reflect the quality of revenues. Instead, EBITDA does.
About valuation, the first model is discount cash flow model using WACC for enterprise value. One component of WACC is cost of equity, was based on a risk premium approach. This model based on 4 factors. First factor, 10 years, 10-year UNH Treasury Bill, and expectation variation annual foreign exchange in Peru and space corporation. As the outcome of cost of cost of equity is 12.21%. And finally, the target price is 18.74.
Additionally, we use the sum of the parts multiples and price to earning multiples. The sum of the parts is based on we value each in retail segment separately. First, we obtain the median enterprise value EBITDA of the comparable company from Latin America, focusing on Pacific Islands. And then we forecast the EBITDA 2017 by segment, and we obtain a fair equity value of $20.19. In price to earning, is similar to some of the parts, but it uses a price to earning forward 2017. In this case, we use a company in retail as a whole, not by segment, and we obtain a fair value of $17.12.
About the Monte Carlo simulation, we use historical analysis, and in order to get a distribution of the stock price, we use 4 inputs, which are the GDP, the cost of debt, and the cost of equity, and the terminal growth. The sample was about 100,000 simulation, and the whole recommendation with a 66.1% of probability. Finally, we ratify our whole recommendation, and we highlight the merits and concerns of the company. The merits a significant potential outlook for the modern retail because the low penetration, diversification across its business segment, because each business segment are classified in different sectors, and the market has a leading position in every in every business segment. But the concerns are the decreasing economic growth of the Peruvian economy, the scarcity of land available for construction, which reduce the pace of construction of new stores or shopping malls, the currency exposure, because the company has 23% of its total debt, which is not hedged by the call spread, and the low independence among the board of directors, because only one member is an independent, and the most of shares are concentrating in few shareholders. So for that reason, we support our whole recommendation. Thank you.
My first question is, could you explain a little bit more why you recommend to hold the stock if you have a downside in the price?
We use an interval of up and down 10% to have a whole recommendation.
But why are you not considering the potential upsides in the price? That's because you assign a low probability, or the impact is not so relevant to change the price, the target?
Yes, the potential outside for modern retail is right, because there is a low penetration in Peru, but the problem is that the outlook for Peruvian economy is lower for the future. So we know that the retail sector go with the Peruvian economy, and with a lower rate, the sales of the sector will reduce.
And how do you think the margins are going to evolve?
Sorry, could you repeat?
For example, the EBITDA margin, how do you think it's going to evolve in the future? Do you think there's a pressure for competitors to lower the margin of the business?
We think that the margins are maintaining constantly because the company is not changing its strategy too much. Only the company implement a new pilot project of 23 stores of discount model stores oriented to the C and D and E socioeconomic categories. For this reason, we don't want to suspect about a possible growth because the company is oriented to activities at a stable pace.
And what needs to happen to earn money invested in this stock? If you are calculating a downside target price below the market, how you're going to earn money?
As I said, it depends much of the Peruvian economy, how it grows, because as we know, if the GDP grows, the private consumption will grow, and then the people will buy more products, and the sales of the company will improve.
Yes, I like what my partner said. We want to say that when we make a Monte Carlo simulation, we find that the company is too sensible to the terminal growth, and we use as a terminal growth the potential GDP growth. So this business is completely sensible to the performance of the company. Yes.
Just adding to the question that Diego mentioned, that we were discussing before, for a whole recommendation, you have obviously your range, that inflation is 3% or whatever, so a 3% downside doesn't make a lot of sense for an investor to stay in unless you see these value drivers. So my question is, what would you need to see to change your recommendation to a buy or a sell? I mean, what would be the main drivers, data points that you would need to see to go either way?
Improving as a better pay. The second is that the company changes its strategy because we can see that some aspects that could affect the value. Also, aspects as concentration of the portfolio makers, and also other aspects like the debt exposure. The company is too sensible to the debt exposure because we can find that the foreign exchange rate affect the margin activities of the company. So we can conclude that the company is too sensible to the economic base and its own strategies. If the new pilot project improve or improve the quality of the company or get good results, that would be a good that create a good environment in the company.
You mentioned here that some of the financial risk. In terms of financial risks, not industry, do you see any concerns in terms of liquidity? You mentioned the currency exposure. Do you have any concerns with the maturity of the debt, any concentration you may see? You see any other financial risks that could derail your valuation?
Financial risks. We think that the front of risk of this company is also the currency exposure. It has too much relation with its debt. This company adopt a call spread, but when we use the Monte Carlo model, we identify that there are periods of recession and appreciation of the appreciation and depreciation of the currency. So that could be a problem to the company because they are covered their debt, but if the value of the foreign exchange goes up to the interval of the dollar spread, that could be a problem for the company because, as we know, all derivatives have a risk implied.
So, adding to that point, I think the company takes too much time to buy the dollar spread because they're making the 2016. So that costs a lot of money for the company and reduces revenue. So if the company would use this dollar spread before, maybe there would be a better performance for the company.
I do have questions regarding the valuation. You used free cash flow to refer model. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How many years did you project?
5 years.
5 years. Why did you project 5 years? Seems difficult for me to understand because the company is currently doing a lot of investments. It's going to be like 5-6 years that the company is going to invest a lot of money, and then they are going to have the money coming from their operations. Why did you use 5 years?
We use 5 years because most of the debt finished in 2021. So we wanted to measure that impact of the debt in the company.
2 minutes.
Additionally, retail has a lower projects than before. For example, for Real Plaza only have one big project in Uchuco and no other is near. And they are focusing only on expansion of the Real Plaza already. And in case of Plaza Vea and Nunca Pharma, they project to open a lower stores per year than before.
I have a question regarding the cost of equity construction. I don't see equity risk premium there. Can you explain us why did you use that formula to construct the cost of equity?
We don't use the KPM because we want to be strict with theory. As we know, our country doesn't have a performance that KPM take as assumptions. 1 minute. Liquidity of the market, the depth of the market, and an adequate benchmark to applicate. For this reason, we apply the risk premium approach. We can see the a 10-year US Treasury bill, a variation of foreign exchange rate, and then the Peru, industrial risk, and spread comparative, which is based on the debt, PB plus debt value at 3.5%.
Okay, the cost of debt, did you use the yield to maturity or the coupon rate?
We use the yield to maturity.
Thank you.
Good morning, we are the Universidad Peruana de Ciencias Aplicadas team, and we will present our whole recommendation on Retail Peru call, or IPC for short. We have a target price of 18.5, which means a dollar, which means a 2.9% downside from February 8 close. Retail is a subsidiary of Peru. It's a retailer and real estate owner operator, and these two businesses for retail consumers and retail shopping malls on the Gran Plaza branch, which despite its revenues just 6%, it generates 70% of consolidated EBITDA. But what about Supermercados Peruanos? It's a supermarket chain. Its format is divided in three. Supermarkets have its common. While Inca Pharma is already in formats, standalone pharmacies and pharmacies in supermarkets. Okay, this is in retail, but what's industry overview? We focus on points. There is a lot market penetration, and particularly in the three segments run by retail. And second point, Peru is located in a picking stage where consumers seek alternative formats and create exposure to global brands like H&M. And given that, we estimate in retail Peru group, in retail growth view, where we show interesting growth. In retail has many advantages against its competitors that has allowed it to become the leader in every business it takes part of. Regarding the supermarket business, it has been gaining a lot of more market share up to the point to become the #1 player in the year 2016 with a 36.1% participation. This is due to three main factors. In the first place, it's its high-low strategy, which summarizes in differentiating its market according to its population classification of socioeconomic position. According to this, they do a coverage of the market to each segment with a different kind of store. After that, they also have a second strategy which fidelizes its clients through high discounts. This is mainly through different credit cards for each store. And last but not least, Supermercados Peruanos uses given its small-sized stores, can operate in different places in medium-sized cities with high-density population. In retail, pharmacies also has a leading position thanks mainly to its everyday low price strategy, which is really important against its main strategy of its competitor, which translates in having different offers for different days for different products. Another strategy is to utilize its clients regards having a pharmaceutical chemist in each of its stores, and this allows them to give a more personal experience to the clients. In retail shopping malls, lastly, has also a very important leadership in its own market. This is due to having the first mover advantage, as well as having many places regarding its competitors that give them a lot more high power of negotiation in regards to their old tenants, new prospects that seek high value, high growth potential. This explains really the average 97% of occupancy rate for the last 4 years.
Talking about the financial analysis, we can see that the historical growth sales was more than 10% in average for the last 4 years, and it is driving for more investment in shopping malls and drugstores. Supermercados Peruanos contributes with 60% from the mid sales. However, due to the investment mentioned, the MITS project to increase in Conformada share is from 33% to 39%, and from Real Plaza from 3% to 7%. Let's talking about the margins. The gross profit would tend to 30%, and then the operation margin tend to 9%, and net margin to 5%. Supermercados peruanos and Incafarma contribute to her margin about the volume of her sales, and then on the other hand, Real Plaza contribute to her largest margin with 30% on the consolidated EBITDA. Let's talking about continuing about the profitability. We can see that the show decline of the return of equity in 2013 is explained by the financial expenses from Supermercados Peruanos and Real Plaza, but our projection is to increase the return of equity derivative for the increase the net margin and for the materialization of the investment. And then we can see the table of covenants that the numbers that they are presenting are according to the pre-established parameters according to with our projection.
Now let's talk about valuation. First, why do we use the DCF model as our main approach? First, for one side, we can see that due to this methodology, we are able to model main drivers and dynamics of each line of business. On the other side, we had other approaches like dividend discount model and comparable multiples. However, we think they are not applicable to retail at all. That's why we just use the comparable multiples as a complementary analysis. Well, the main result of our analysis is a target price of $18.5. In order to get this price, we forecast revenues using a bottom-up approach. About investment, we forecast CAPEX will reach a maximum of 500 million soles in 2007 due to the development of Prochuco shopping mall. Finally, about the discount rate and terminal value, we estimate a WACC of 10.3%. We have seen the retail sales performance has had an elasticity more than 1 in comparison to the aggregate economy activity. So we consider as a moderate assumption to use the Peruvian potential GDP growth as our long-term rate. Well, finally, why to hold, right? Well, we all know that the probability of having just a value as a target price is 0. So our evaluation is based on stochastic valuation using the Monte Carlo simulation. On our side, we contrast our forecasting to comparable multiples to contrast our forecasting to comparable market behavior, and the outcome is the same, to hold.
Well, now investment risk. We can group in three groups. The first one is related to the business operational risk, and the most important risk is related to the limited potential for IPC expansion due to the high market penetration that the company has and the number of stores nationwide. Second, with regard of market risk, we have two important risks. The first one is related to the depreciation of the exchange rate, which could affect some costs expressed for each currency. And the next one is related to the risk, to the economic condition that could affect consumer spending, such as availability of credits or a reduction of economic growth. And for last, we have the regulatory risk. The main important risk is related to the new and existing regulatory requirements that could affect the company's image and operation. At last, we propose a dynamic sensitivity analysis to see how these main risk factors could affect our target price. And we found a high correlation, a high impact with movement in exchange rate and long-term growth.
So, to summarize, we believe that in retail from financials, as well as their field strategy, have limited the leadership that is reflected in their market share. And given the low penetration in retail market, we believe all of these support our whole recommendation. Thank you. We would now like to give the floor to the Q&A.
My first question is, if you
if you're recommending to hold the stock, why, in what scenario do you think you will earn money with target price which is below the current price?
Well, our target price, in a way, our thesis is that the market is currently incorporating a whole information of the company. It is not undervalued or overvalued. So, a scenario will be an increasing of new shopping malls in areas where nowadays is not common, like rural areas, or maybe in the terminal value we use just a moderate assumption to use the GDP growth potential. So maybe if we know that retail market has had a dynamic growth, maybe they can have a better price. But that's an optimistic situation.
Do you think there are better opportunities in the market to invest in instead of companies in which you lose money?
Well, in retail, it's in line to be like a blue chip for Peru. So we believe the company will have an increase in the sales due to the investment they are having nowadays. But it's difficult to forecast where to find new areas for shopping malls, supermarkets. So it's difficult to say that there are a lot of potential for that kind of business. That's why.
I mean, according to your question, you think that we will lose money taking this stock, but I don't think that is necessarily the case. We do simulation scenarios, 10,000 simulations, and we believe there are different scenarios in which the stock will give us profit. It is not always the case that it will give us a loss. So you could say it has an upside of 10%. Yeah, right, but you could, it may have in the scenarios a low percentage, and you could have the scenarios in which it goes down. So we believe that it is not necessarily recommended to sell or to buy, but we can hold it, and there might be scenarios which we have forecasted that will give us can give the shareholders value for their money.
Yeah, but in an optimistic scenario, you earn money. What are the assumptions?
Here we have a combination of WACC and electric growth we can use to forecast the range of the whole recommendation. We can see between a WACC between 9.9% and 10.6%, it's our recommendation of holding. Another way, we have the electric growth. In that range, our recommendation is to hold also. More or less can be the lower and the upper threshold to differentiate our recommendation.
Okay, what do you think is going to happen with the margins of the company? Do you think they're going to evolve positively, or maybe they compress?
The behavior of the margins of the company were stable in the last 4 years. For example, in the gross margin is 29%, and in the operational margin is stable in 8.5%. Our trend is that its margin is continue stable. I mentioned, for example, the gross margin will tend to 30% in average in this graph. The operational margin to 9%, and all this is consolidated, and net profit margin is in 5%. Then, on the other side, we see the margin for business, and Real Plaza has largest margins because this is a commercial service sector. Supermercados Peruanos and Inca Pharma concentrate their margin in the volume of the sales. So this is disaggregate the margin, but in consolidate we see that the stable behavior of the margins for the next year in 2020.
My last question, what's your assessment of the corporate governance of the company?
Yeah, we did an evaluation of the corporate governance of the company, and we believe that it doesn't represent a big risk to the company, especially considering that for the last years, the company has been growing at a steady rate that has been a lot higher than that of the market, right? So there are different things that the company could have some better things, like creating some committees, but we believe that the management of the company has been in line with the growth that has been shown by the company. They also have a very important risk management, which shows the importance of the politics that the corporate governance has taken.
Regarding the financial model, how many years do you use for your DCF? What do you use as cost of debt? Do you use the coupon of the bond, the yield to maturity? I think the presentation was not those data were not there. And did you use any, what beta for the WACC did you use?
Mainly about financing, you mean about the model?
About the model.
Yeah, that will be related to the WACC approach. So to get the cost of equity, we use the commonly used capital asset pricing model with American information and adjusting it to the Peruvian context with a spread for risk, country risk. From our side, about the debt, we estimating a spread in the time where Unitel issued their bonds. And that is spread in between the yield to their bonds and the Peruvian governance yield of Peruvian bonds. So that is spread, we maintain the spread nowadays with a current yield of Peruvian 30-year bonds.
So you kept the spread constant at the time?
Yes.
So just as a quick question, why didn't you use the market data for the dollar bond issuance that we had? You have available data, current available data.
We believe that in retail as a whole, many companies in Peru are very related with the real economic conditions, how the government, behavior of the government. So we believe that that is a good benchmark of how is going to, how has been and how is going to be the financial markets.
And for the DCF, how many years did you use for projecting the data?
Do you mean the previous one or the?
No, the DCF, did you use 5 years, 10 years?
The forecasting period is 5 years. We were discussing about it. Why 5, 10? We finally decided 5 years because of lack of enough information about the investments of the company. We just know about their investment in pharmacies, but not too much about it in shopping malls, just Chuco and supermarkets neither. So that's why we forecasted just 5 years of the model.
I have one question regarding the company's strategy. Do you think other competitors are going to enter to the Peruvian market? How is that going to affect your valuation?
Right now, we do not believe that there will be new competitors trying to enter the Peruvian market, especially because the high capital expenditure it needs, right? So not only that, but it needs a lot of capital expenditure, and you will face a really high level of competence in the market, which can be seen in the competition made by in retail, Cencosud, and Alvega. So we don't consider it likely that there will be a new competition in the market in the near future.
Okay, thank you guys. We don't have further questions.
Thank you.
Vamos a hacer unas coordinaciones logísticas primero. Luego de la premiación, el equipo ganador va a subir a acá, al escenario. Nos vamos a tomar unas fotografías Posteriormente tenemos la ceremonia de tocada de campana, y esa tocada de campana se va a hacer uno con el grupo ganador y luego con todos los participantes. ¿De acuerdo? Una vez que hemos terminado la ceremonia de campana, hay un brindis, y antes del brindis se le va a entregar a cada uno de los participantes su certificado de participación. Entonces les pedimos a todos, ganadores y los que no han podido ganar, no le decimos que han perdido, simplemente que no han ganado, digamos, igual tienen que participar hasta el final, ¿no? Entonces ya con su certificado termina la ceremonia. Yo voy a darle la palabra a uno de los jueces para que defina comentarios y presente, ¿no?
No, a ver, pues quería agradecerle antes que nada a Diego Marrero y a Omar Avellaneda, que han sido nuestro jurado. Por favor, les pido un aplauso. Quería felicitarlos, ¿no? Creo que estamos llegando a la etapa justo final de la competencia que sé que es algo que requiere bastante dedicación. Es un tema voluntario y lo deben haber visto, y lo hemos visto también por la hora de llegada de los archivos que se han quedado trabajando hasta las últimas, ¿no? Y creo que como experiencia creo que es algo súper valioso que no lo dejen ahí, ¿no? Al que quiera seguir una carrera en mercado de capitales, en finanzas, creo que es de los mejores inicios que uno puede tener. A todos nos hubiera encantado de que cuando estábamos en la universidad hubiera habido una competencia de este tipo, ¿no? Sobre todo alguien que está entrando digamos, al mundo de empresas, ¿no? Creo que los trabajos han sido de muy buen nivel, ¿no? Como les decía, en los reportes se veía todo el trabajo que le han puesto, y así es lo más cercano y más competitivo que hemos tenido en las últimas personas, y por eso lo felicito. Sobre las presentaciones, quería dejarlos a Diego y Omar que les comenten las apreciaciones generales que han habido, ¿no? Algunos puntos comunes, vimos de cosas buenas, y algunos puntos de la segunda derivada que siempre se pueden ir puliendo, y es donde cuando los trabajos son buenos se tiene que ir diferenciando en la calificación, ¿no? Y para eso les doy la palabra.
A ver, yo tengo algunas recomendaciones generales, ¿sí? La primera es que cuando hay una recomendación de hold, de mantener, tendría que es válida, digamos. Creo que más potente es una recomendación o de compra o de venta, ¿no? Si hay un upside, es comprar, ¿no? Si hay un downside, es vender. Cuando la recomendación es de mantener, debería estar bien claro cuáles son los drivers que podrían gatillar una subida, ¿no? Y en qué momento se podría recomendar incrementar la posición, ¿no? Algo muy válido es decir, yo mantengo la acción, si es que ya la tengo, y no la vendo por alguna razón, ¿no? Una razón puede ser, bueno, algunos costos son transacciones, ¿no? Y otra razón es, voy a esperar a que pase algo, ¿no? ¿Qué cosa es ese algo que puede pasar? ¿No? Entonces, mientras eso no lo tengamos claro, no debería ser una recomendación de mantener, ¿no? Si te da un downside y no tienes eso claro, deberías recomendar vender, ¿no? Y por otro lado, si el upside es limitado, igual debería ser recomendar vender, porque hay otras alternativas en el mercado que pueden generarte mayor rendimiento, ¿no? No deberías recomendar mantener lo que termina por debajo de la inflación, ¿no? Porque estarías destruyendo capital en términos reales, ¿no? Esa es una recomendación inicial. Otra, ya entrando a los modelos de evaluation, cuando haces un modelo de DCF, ¿no? Para una empresa como un retail que tiene varias etapas de crecimiento, esas etapas de crecimiento deberían ser reflejadas en un modelo de DCF con multietapas, ¿no? Unos años en donde se crece a una tasa, luego alcanza una tasa más madura, y luego crece a una tasa parecida al PBI potencial, ¿sí? Identificar claramente cuáles son esas etapas. Y cuando proyectemos el DCF, obviamente un driver importante es en las ventas, pero también es importante los márgenes, ¿no? Los márgenes pueden ir variando a lo largo del tiempo. Y también el CAPEX, ¿no? El CAPEX hay que identificarlo claramente cómo va a venir variando, porque eso finalmente te afecta también el valuation. Sí, esas son principales recomendaciones que son generales y aplican casi para todos los grupos.
Yo noté algunas cosas en términos de evaluación de múltiplos. De hecho, yo también no solamente he actuado hoy como jurado, sino también he revisado los trabajos. Y hay una cosa que sí hay que tener bien claro, ¿no? Hay muchas empresas en el mercado, no necesariamente todas van a ser comparables, pero las que ustedes detecten que son comparables, explíquenlas bien. Hay que poner un cuadro, por ejemplo, hay esta empresa que es, no sé, por ejemplo, Alicorp, que es comparable de otra, digamos, ¿no? Entonces Alicorp hace esto, trabaja en tal lugar, sus ingresos son así, y tiene una posición líder. Entonces creemos que esta es una buena comparable, digamos. O sea, siempre puedes poner una lista de 20 empresas, pero tú tienes que justificar siempre, digamos, el trabajo que tú estás haciendo, porque es un esfuerzo grande lo que ustedes han hecho. Entonces vale la pena también que ponerle un poco más de detalle a eso, ¿no? Ya sea si es que lo pones dentro de tus primeras 10 páginas, ¿no? O dentro de los anexos. En términos de evaluation, sí estoy de acuerdo con Diego de que esta es una empresa que todavía está en una etapa muy agresiva de crecimiento, que empezó mucho más agresiva, de hecho, se de paso, ¿no? Esta vendría a ser como una empresa de 4 etapas de crecimiento, ¿no? Una súper agresiva tras el IPO, una empresa que todavía sigue invirtiendo muy fuerte, y luego va a pasar a una etapa en la que va a haber un crecimiento más moderado a la medida que ya madura todo el mercado, y luego ya es un crecimiento más inercial, digamos, conforme va creciendo la economía, ¿no? Pero no hay tanto espacio, y ustedes han mencionado qué cosas limitan eso. Y finalmente, volviendo al primer punto, digamos, de cómo sustentar un hold, a mí, yo trabajando de analista, me era mucho más complicado sustentar un hold que digamos, justificar un buy o un sell, ¿no? Entonces, tiene que tener bien claro, digamos, el por qué están esperando, digamos, a seguir teniendo la acción, o en todo caso, digamos, tenerlo como un watchlist importante, digamos, de potencial de apreciación, ¿no? Los trabajos han sido bastante buenos, digamos, los trabajos impresos han estado bastante buenos en términos de calidad. Entonces, yo más bien también tengo que agradecer al CFA Institute por haberme invitado a participar como jurado, y siento que, digamos, con la calidad de los trabajos que hemos visto, de todas maneras el mercado ya empieza a mejorar, digamos, ¿no? Porque hay más personas interesadas, digamos, en participar en este sector, y en verdad lo que nosotros también estamos tratando acá es de que el mercado de capitales también tenga un mayor desarrollo, ¿no? Porque eso a la larga va a generar un mayor crecimiento de la economía peruana, digamos, ¿no? Es una de las habilidades que tenemos, y el CFA está trabajando de manera constante en mejorarlo, ¿no? Y a través de la educación yo creo que es muy bueno.
Solo como un comentario adicional que comparto todo lo que han dicho Diego y Omar. El tema, justo hablábamos de la dirección del hold, mantener, tiene que estar tan sustentada o más sustentada que con estos drivers como una opción de una recomendación de compra-venta, ¿no? Porque le va dando armonía a la presentación que ustedes están haciendo, ¿no? Va dando una hilación de por qué mantener la empresa. Tiene que estar claro algún motivo por el cual uno se va a quedar en una posición de equity que no le va a rendir, ¿no? Y en general incluso esos parámetros a veces se suelen dar de 0 para arriba en lugar de como un negativo, porque como un negativo muchas veces eso, como mencionaba Diego, tiene que estar muy fundamentado el por qué alguien mantiene, digamos, una posición que no le está rindiendo durante un periodo de 12 meses, ¿no? Como comentario final, y habiendo visto varias de estas presentaciones en estos últimos años, el trabajo en equipo es súper importante en la presentación, y es algo que hemos visto, que se ha notado mayor, digamos, armonía, digamos, entre las presentaciones que en el pasado, pero es algo que ponga el énfasis, porque es algo que se nota a lo largo de toda la presentación cuando el equipo está, se nota unido tanto en la presentación como en las preguntas, ¿no? Porque las preguntas también es una parte donde se puede notar, digamos, como digo, cuando ya uno entra a la parte inicial del ataque, pero ya del análisis, pero ya se empieza a ver la segunda derivada de puntos, es donde los puntos empiezan a pesar, ¿no? Sin más, vamos a anunciar los resultados. En esta edición que tenemos crecido de equipo vamos a anunciar a segundo lugar y al primer lugar, ¿no? Esperamos no tener temas como el Oscar, pero no, y como reconocimiento, como les digo, sí ha sido bastante competitivo el tema, ¿no? Como bien decía Omar, lo cerraba porque Omar estuvo en la parte de crédito también de muy buen nivel y en la parte de presentación creo que las presentaciones han sido bastante buenas, ¿no? Entonces sí queríamos reconocer también un poco eso y felicitarlos nuevamente. Para dar los resultados, el segundo lugar ha sido de la UPC. Y el ganador del concurso es la Universidad del Pacífico. Quisiera invitar a los...
Ahí medio los dos chicos. Hace equipo, por favor. Hola. Bueno, no sé si hacen la foto, por favor. Hay una ¿nos acompañan en la foto? Sí, sí. ¿Sí que bueno podemos hacerlo? Sí, eso muy bien, eso muy bien. Sí, claro. Hace aquí todo, por favor. Hola. Bueno, acá la mano, así.
Así como agregar las cosas, ¿por qué no puedo agregar finanzas? No,
sí, por favor. Una más, por favor.
Todo lo demás grupos nos paramos.
Un saludo a todos, por favor. Un saludo a todos. Eso está bien. Muchas gracias.
Ahora